We have a massive Lakers trade update to go over today as a report has dropped, a huge one, revealing that a blockbuster trade is imminent for the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll break down exactly what that report is and discuss what it means going forward as Rob Pelinka prepares for something huge. But before we get into that, folks, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable, so thank you guys for that. And again, if you're a part of the 80 or so percent who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Ladies and gentlemen, a ton to go over today. Now, obviously, the Lakers are in a very, very interesting spot. Now, the postseason is well underway. We're seeing, the Timberwolves beat a depleted Warriors team. We're seeing the Cavs lose by 40. But what matters the most is the Los Angeles Lakers and their pursuit of a big move. And ladies and gentlemen, a big move seems to be incoming according to multiple reports. Let's dive into this here. And this is a big one that has gained a ton of traction as of late. Rumor, Los Angeles Lakers are expected to make massive moves this summer to bring them closer to being a title contender for the entire 82-game season and beyond. If that is the case, a trade is likely in the cards for the Lakers per Ricardo Sand of Sports Illustrated now. So, ton to go over here. Now, they use the quote massive move. And obviously, we've been talking about it on the channel for a while. We think back to Rob Pelinka's press conference, what he was saying at that time, talking about how, hey, Rob Pelinka said moves are going to be coming. They're going to evaluate for a center. Now, is it definitely going to be a center in this case? I think they have multiple moves to do here. And if we know Rob Pelinka, I mean, he made the trade for Luka Doncic. He's not afraid, and he's not going to shy away from trading some of the assets that he has remaining in order to get a guy like, who we'll dive into in a minute here, Jaren Jackson Jr. or a Cam Johnson, not Cam Reddish, well, I imagine, a Cam Johnson type player. Now, as you look at it from the Lakers' perspective, this report is huge. Again, the Lakers are expected to make a massive moves, which, moves, I think, is the key point here because, of course, we know the Lakers are going to make a move for a center, and we know the Lakers are going to make a move for a 3-and-D wing. Now, Cam Johnson, who we'll dive into in a minute, is an extremely good, versatile 3-and-D wing. He would cost a ton. Jaren Jackson Jr. would also cost a ton. And I'm not going to sit here and say confidently that they have enough assets to get both of those guys, but we've been heard rumblings about Jaren Jackson in the past. We've heard some rumblings, of course, at the trade deadline from regarding Cam Johnson, mainly before the Luka stuff happened. I think there's a very real possibility here that they make a trade that, it isn't on everybody's radar. A deal like a Cam Johnson, a deal like a Jaren Jackson Jr., because they're going to be going after the big fish, not necessarily the smaller fish. Now, we know Jovan Buha came out and said their top priorities are guys like, of course, Daniel Gafford and Nick Claxton, which is also, a very interesting thing as well. And you think back to, Daniel Gafford, would that be considered a massive move? Maybe not. But if you're going after a guy like Daniel Gafford, who maybe would cost a lot less than some of the other guys, and you want to use your swaps and your Dalton Knecht, the young player, the sophomore now, will be entering sophomore season, you maybe want to, could use that on a 3-and-D wing if they want to go for a guy like Daniel Gafford at the center position who wouldn't cost too much. I mean, we're hearing packages, again, of Knecht in a second. We've heard a bunch of different rumblings, second-round picks, all these different things, depending on what the value actually is here. But we think back to Rob Pelinka's press conference where he basically came out and said, hey, Rob Pelinka is expecting a lot of player movements are in the NBA this offseason. And, if we think back to that press conference, it was clear that big moves were going to be on the horizon for, the Los Angeles Lakers. And he kind of hinted at how, he wouldn't have said and wouldn't have been this confident if that wasn't the case. And you have this report that drops. This is very big news. Now let's dive into some of the, you can see here, the trade prospects for the LA Lakers. Now, I want you guys to let me know down below, out of the, reasonable players, who would you prefer the Lakers get? Now, obviously, we'll have videos on Kessler, Claxton, John Collins, but I want to focus on Cam Johnson for a minute here because everyone and all the focus has been on the Lakers acquiring a center. That's where the focus has been. That's where most people kind of put their mind to when they think of, the Lakers making a big splash, or in this case, a quote, massive move. But let's talk about, of course, Jaren Jackson Jr., but I want to talk about Cam Johnson for a minute here. Looking at his stats, last season he averaged 18 points, and of course, he's on a Brooklyn Nets team that isn't great. His role was greatly increased. I think on a very good team, he's probably going to average more like he did in Phoenix. But regardless of that, he is a fantastic shooter, near 40% from three, shoots 39% on his career. He 47% from the field. He is a 3-and-D monster, and especially for a team like the Lakers that need that, it could make a ton of sense. Now, we know the Brooklyn Nets, according to Shams and everything, were holding out for multiple first-round picks in the package at last year's deadline. I don't think that's on the cards. Now, if you could come out and let's say you give up Dalton Knecht in your first-round pick, the same package that you would give up for Mark Williams, I think that's a deal that you do most of the time. And I'm very curious to see what you guys think about it because I've been seeing, some Lakers fans split to a degree because you're thinking, hey, we want to save some of these assets and most of these assets for the first three guys in the list. And it's a very, realistic possibility that that's what they do. They hold out, they make their big splash for a guy like, Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson Jr. is probably not a realistic example. Nick Claxton or someone like that. The most realistic example, I should say. But if you can get a guy like Cam Johnson to help with this team, it makes a ton of sense. Now, the problem is with that, you have so many wings on the team that, well, not wings, but similar players to Cam Johnson in the sense of what they could be. I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith, Rui Hachimura. So I think there's going to be, in these reports that tons of moves are coming. There might be some movement with Rui Hachimura. He could be used as a trade chip. Dorian Finney-Smith, do they want to keep him around? There's so many different things that could happen here. You pair that with all the rumors about Daniel Gafford, who will be much cheaper than Claxton, already has chemistry with Luka, and was the starting center for a finals team. This is the guy. And again, in case you missed my video on it, Derek Lively is a year away from getting an extension. Daniel Gafford is entering the final year of his contract, and he reasonably and rightfully wants to get starting center money. Now, the Lakers, whether or not they want to give him starting center money, obviously still up in the air. But if they're able to get him for cheaper than Claxton would, and then you use that, and it doesn't have to be Cam Johnson, but another 3-and-D stopper, there could be a world where, multiple massive moves come here. They get the starting center they want, but they also go out and get a wing. Now, on the other hand of that, there is still, of course, a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. We know Andy Bailey, a Bleacher Report, listed some potential targets for the Lakers to consider, and one name that really stuck out was Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the league's, JJJ is one of the league's best rim protectors. One of his few weaknesses, and of course, talking about Jackson, is his rebounding, which is a strength of Luka's. And unlike some of the few options, Jackson isn't just a threat roller of the ball screens. He's a pick and pop option. Keep lanes clear for Luka drives too. Now, Jaren Jackson Jr., an absolute beast. He is a Mr. Menace. He's a beast. All these different things. He would cost a ton. And I don't think if you go out and you get a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr., there's a ton of other trade avenues to get your, wing stopper, your point of attack defender, whatever you want to call it, right? Now, the problem with this is, the Lakers do have a lot of holes to fill, and you can see this here, and there's been some, pessimism around the team. I don't think you guys realize how far the Lakers are from competing next year. Unless Pelinka goes all in by trading whoever outside the duo. The Wolves are struggling to beat them without Steph, and we got gentlemen slept. Of course, the Wolves ultimately came back, so that point is null. It's talking about yesterday's game. But regardless of that, I don't think anyone's safe outside of LeBron and Luka Doncic. Rui Hachimura, I think, could be traded. Dorian Finney-Smith. Austin Reaves, 100% can be traded. Now, I think they're going to probably try to work out an extension, all these different things. But I think you have to entertain, especially seeing how these playoffs are playing out, a trade, regarding him. Now, if you think back to Jaren Jackson Jr., like if this is available, you look at some of his total stats. I mean, fantastic. You look on the right there, defensive player of the year finalist. It's interesting sometimes to look at their, total points, all these different things, but he's averaging 20 points a game, 3-point percentage, 37.5%. The Lakers are in a very good spot if they can go out and get one of these guys. There's still Claxton, there's still Kessler, there's still John Collins. There's so many options available, and the Lakers are prone to make a massive move, and a report indicates that. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news, so make sure to hit the subscribe button. But let me know down below who you think, A, is the most likely, and would you be interested in entertaining a massive deal surrounding a guy like Cam Johnson?